Marvel Rivals recently added Jeff and Thor to the game, and since I recently solo queued into the top 100 of all players, I figured it's time that we revise our tier list that we posted a few days ago, so you guys know what you should play and what you shouldn't play in the beta of Marvel Rivals. But let's just jump right into it. Starting off with the DPS, we're gonna start off at the very bottom in the F tier. I want to start off by placing Black Panther all the way at the bottom. I can see the vision using him as a dive DPS, especially if you combine him with magic for that team up, and maybe like with a Venom or someone to lead the charge. But overall, I feel like melee characters aren't super good. Yes, I know you're playing around the dashes to get the most out of Black Panther, but I just feel like it's a lot of work in order to catch the back line. But I don't feel like Black Panther outputs damage or kills to make all that effort worth it, which is why I believe he is currently F tier. Moving on into the E tier for DPS, we have Iron Man. I don't feel like Iron Man has that much of an impact. He's slow and floaty, and if you have a hit scan DPS, I know a lot of them are hit scan, but specifically someone like Hela or Punisher on your team, Iron Man is basically shut down. He cannot play on the high ground, he cannot fly around and shoot at people as much as he wants. He's more of a spammy DPS sitting really far back in the sky, super safe is shooting. I do want to give some credit to his ultimate, but I feel like overall he's too easy to counter and does not have enough impact to be rated any higher. Worth you mention though, if the enemy team doesn't have, let's say, a Hela or a Punisher or anyone who can shut him down, I could argue that Iron Man is a pretty solid choice because you can be completely uncontested and do so much damage while they can't even shoot back at you. But either way, assuming people play what's meta, I believe Iron Man is E tier. But diving into the D tier, we of course started off with Spider-Man. I've moved this guy up a little bit, seeing as some people have been making him work, but I don't think the #1 or previously #1 player being in #1 while playing Spider-Man means Spider-Man is S tier. That's kind of a false equivalency. He's playing in a free stack with other really good players, and they're going to win no matter what he plays. And I played against Necros, who I'm talking about, and I shut him down several times on my own just by focusing him. If you just know where Spider-Man is, if you pay attention to Spider-Man as a team, he can do absolutely nothing. Spider-Man has to get a full combo on you to get a kill, and if you deny that, he is super squishy and super easy to kill. The ultimate is decent. I can see some carry potential, but overall, against a focused team, he is worthless. The same kind of goes for Star-Lord, even though Star-Lord does have a decent burst damage, and actually I feel like he has really good survivability. I do want to say that Star-Lord also belongs in the D tier. But anyways, moving on, we're gonna hop into the C tier for DPS, where my first choice will be Namor. It is pretty solid and revolves around the turrets. While they don't deal too much damage, it is a little bit of chip damage, and it can help you shut down enemies that are playing on high grounds or flying or just flanking, which will give you and your team some additional control. The ultimate is super good because it CCs the entire enemy team, but it can also, I think, one-shot or basically one-shot squishies as well. Overall though, a big problem with Namor is that if you don't have a Luna on your team, you don't get that valuable team-up ability, and that kind of holds him back from hitting his max potential. Another hero in the C tier will of course be Magic, who is a decent dive character, in my opinion better than Spider-Man and Black Panther, because of her very good damage as well as burst potential, both in and out of her ultimate. She has good movement, she has good survivability thanks to her dash ability. And of course the team up is worth mentioning with Black Panther, though nobody will probably be playing Black Panther. But I think that Magic overall is a very good choice if you want a melee dive character. She's almost like a pseudo tank or off tank in a way. Moving on into the B tier, I do want to say that Storm has climbed up a little bit in my rankings. I did rate her pretty low in a previous video, but I don't think she's really there yet. I've still played her quite a bit. I don't see how most of her abilities are that valuable to her team compared to the rest of the roster, but her ultimate is really hard to play against. I don't really know if there's a real way to counter it. She just teleports in and just kills the entire backline, just wipes all the squishies. Super good, basically, again, guaranteed fight winner. But she's pretty much useless with a very easy to hit hitbox, and she's slow moving as she's floating around, and she doesn't output that much damage with a projectile shot, so I cannot put her higher than B tier, and that's again off of the ultimate alone. Another character that kind of has the same treatment will of course be Scarlet Witch in the A tier, who doesn't have the best damage. It's easy to line up the shots with her primary attack, and she's a little bit like Mora in Overwatch, where you don't really have to try, but you don't deal that much damage. So you can kill people that are not good at dishing damage back at you, but as soon as you start climbing up the ranks, people are going to win trades against you, and your damage output will be not noticeable enough. She's not that good as a DPS. However, her stun can be very valuable if done the right way, either to shut down enemy tanks, or to shut down a dive, or just to zone people out of a fight. But the primary reason you would want Scarlet Witch is her ultimate, which is basically a guaranteed fight winner if you get it off. It'll wipe anyone in her LOS, basically a diva ultimate. And of course, she has a team up ability that allows Magneto to become S tier, but we'll get to Magneto later, and I kind of spoiled where he's going to be placed. But yeah, thanks to Scarlet Witch, Magneto is so good. He is so good, but we'll get to that because we still have to cover the S tier for the DPS. So starting off, we have previous choice of mine, unchanged, Hela. Amazingly strong kid in every single way. She has a stun, she can float, she can dash. Her ultimate has her 2-shot squishies, AoE damage, I don't know how much health, but way too much in the air. And her mouse 1 has a hit scan ability with a crazy high headshot damage. She also has a secondary ability that nobody really thinks about. It adds a little bit of DPS, I guess. But I can't think of a single weakness for Hela. She's a hit scan, she deals consistent damage, really huge amounts of damage. She can chunk tanks if she wants to. She can chunk the backline. She can play with her team and just, you know, and get a little bit of an off angle and just demolish the DPS or the supports on the enemy team, especially if they have a flyer or something like that in the background. So she's very strong, very high impact, probably one of the best characters, the most high impact characters in Marvel Rivals at the moment. But there's one more character I have to put in the S tier this time around. I did rate him a little bit lower. He was in the A tier in the previous list, but I have to bump him up because honestly, he's probably even slept on in my opinion, and that is Punisher. He has an insane amount of damage. He deals a ton of damage over medium to long ranges. He deals so much damage with his shotgun if you get close. He is probably the best tank buster in the game. He can basically just full burst anyone who jumps him if he pulls the shotgun up and goes for headshots. He's basically like a Reaper in Overwatch, while at the same time has the ability to switch to Soldier 76 in Overwatch, and his ultimate, when used correctly, can destroy the entire enemy team through shields, through heals. It cannot be stunned. It is such a valuable ultimate. I don't use the turret too much personally, but it is very good as well because you can just set up on a good angle and just spam shots down with a higher health pool. And of course, he has the dash with his zipline that allows him to stay mobile and take off angles. And with all that, he still can be combined with Rocket's power up for the team up, which makes him basically get an additional ultimate. If you combine the Rocket power up with the shotgun when enemies are nearby, you're gonna destroy the entire enemy team. He is so good, but nobody plays him, so in a way I believe he's a bit of a sleeper pick. But those were the tiers for the different DPS you can play. But let's continue with the tanks, starting with the F tier, and I really only have one choice for F tier tanks, and that's gonna be Hulk. I don't see a single redeeming factor for Hulk except maybe his ultimate not being in Hulk mode but going Monster Hulk, where he can slam an enemy and kind of swinging him around. But that ability both takes the Hulk and an enemy out of commission for a considerable amount of time, where I'd rather have him actually be able to tank. I genuinely just think that the Hulk's entire kit is a bit of a waste. I don't think it fits the Hulk that well. You know, where are the shields coming from, right? But as far as gameplay goes, he kind of reminds me of Alistar in League of Legends, but without the same type of CC that you would need to actually back the kit up. So I do feel he is a bit of a flop, and that's why he's in the F tier. Moving on though, we're gonna jump past the E tier, the D tier, and the C tier. We're gonna start off in the B tier for tanks, because I think a lot of tanks in this game are really good. Some are a lot better than the others, but a lot of them are pretty solid, and I have a hard time ranking them independent from each other's. But as for B tier, we have Penny Parker. I think she's very good, and honestly probably slept on. I might be ranking her too low, but I will still keep her in the B tier. She is a very decent off tank. She has a good cheese strat where she can put her webs out, which heals her teammates, but also conceals her mines, which can let you get kills on flankers or unsuspecting enemies, even get a lot of damage on the tanks. She has very good survivability and a very high skill roof, but in my opinion, she really comes down to, oh yeah, let's just put some webs here and there, and let's put some mines here and there and try to stay alive as much as we can. I don't feel like she enables her team. She's more of a selfish, let's stay alive and cheese more than anything. You could put down webs and be able to dash to your teammates to peel them, and she does have a secondary fire which does stun an enemy temporarily, and honestly it's great for a peeling off tank, but I feel like overall she doesn't have enough utility when compared to the other tanks in this video. So let's hop into the A tier, talk about those. Starting off, I want to put Doctor Strange in the A tier. He is a great shield tank. He has a good kit. He deals a decent amount of damage with his primary and then his E ability. The portal is really good and allows for so many creative outplays, but it has a very long cooldown, so it almost feels like it doesn't belong to Doctor Strange, and if anything, it's kind of like an extra thing. Like, you could just swap to Doctor Strange, do the portal, and then swap back if you would like to after the fight. And when push comes to shove, you're not going to be using that ability, you're going to be using the rest of his kit. He does have a lot of great qualities, but I want to say that every single one, the shield, the way he shields himself and his teammates, his overall kit is just overshadowed by Magneto in almost every single way. I would say that Doctor Strange is more about enabling his team with abilities, and Magneto is more about dealing damage. But honestly, damage is worth more than just enabling blindly. So let's continue with the list. The next tank in A tier will then be Groot. He is a very good tank, off tank, maybe even main tank, with great survivability. He has a really nice team up, both with Rocket and with Jeff, who can sit on his shoulders, which looks fun. I don't think it's that useful overall, because while it might make it a little bit harder to hit Jeff or Rocket Raccoon, it also puts him in the front line with Groot, so it doesn't really make that much sense. But Groot can create so much space for himself and his teammates by placing walls in any way that he wants. You can go full Fortnite mode to create cover for yourself, or to shut an enemy down, ultimate or ability, and you can even put walls behind an enemy, which will split them off from their teammates and their support and their heals, which will turn them into completely free kills. Not to mention that both of his attacks deal a hell of a ton of damage, and his ultimate snares and traps enemies in front of him and turns them into super easy kills, which you can either use the AoE ability from Groot to deal a lot of damage to them, or have your teammates even follow it up with additional damage. Super strong, super good. However, there are better choices, which we will get to later. There's one more tank in A tier that's a new addition to the game. That's Thor. He is an extremely good off tank, maybe even a main tank, but overall, I'm pretty sure I have like a 80% or 90% win rate on him so far. I've played 8 games and won, I think, 6 or 7 of them, and I've just been tearing it up. I'm still learning to utilize him to the best potential, but he has really good crowd control through his dashes, because it can shut down enemies' abilities. It can push them out of the way to save your teammates. It can get you close enough to start smacking them around. You can even get behind the enemy and shove them straight into your own team to turn them into easy kills. So you can both play Thor as a flanker or just as a main tank standing on the point and distracting the enemy. Not to mention that using your abilities gives you additional health, which keeps you alive for longer as well. The damage is overall solid, but I want to put a lot of attention to his ultimate, because when you use it in the right way, you can basically one-shot every squishy on the enemy team, and there's not much you can do about it. And even if you don't kill them, it will distract them so much that your teammates will be able to jump in with all that space and actually clean up the fight. Super good. I would almost put him in the S tier, but I feel like the S tier choices are so much better still. So the first choice for S tier will of course be Venom. He can stay alive forever, has very good movement with his grapple. He has a solid ult, which gives him additional health, meaning you can use your barrier ability to give you additional health based on how much you're missing, and then once that breaks, you can ultimate and get an additional overshield to stay alive for even longer, and then dash in, dash out, slam, or whatever. Out of all the characters in this whole game, Venom has the highest survivability on his own, and coupled with a good support, he will be unkillable. He can stand on the point and contest it for almost an infinite amount of time. Also has a good amount of damage and can even slow the enemies down with his secondary fire. So of course, it becomes a very strong S tier pick, either as a dive tank or as an off tank if you do have another shield tank, which in this case, assuming you're going off my tier list, Magneto. Magneto has great survivability. He has a Reinhardt style shield which soaks up all types of damage, but he also has a bubble which he can give to himself or a teammate, which also soaks up a lot of damage, and he can use these at the same time if he would like, or just one after one another, meaning that he can protect the front line with his shield, but also have a bubble to give his teammate, assuming they get dove by the enemy team, or he can just shield himself and have additional health while he is frontlining. There's so much you can do with Magneto's kit that it's actually insane. I've been carrying a lot of games with him, and it seems some people carry with him as well. The primary fire and the secondary fire deal a decent amount of damage, especially if you use them right in conjunction with each other, and his ultimate is so good and can be used in so many ways as well. You can use Magneto's ultimate as a diva defense matrix, picks, aka it will eat almost all incoming damage, including certain ultimates. Let's say a Punisher uses his ultimate. Oh yeah, I'll just Magneto ultimate and I'll eat all of his shots and shut him down. And then you get this big ball that you can throw at the backline and just delete them from the game as well. Super valuable if used in the right way. I also want to add that if you do have Scarlet Witch in your team, this really elevates Magneto to the highest potential because he gets the blade ability, and this thing will destroy anyone. I haven't done the math myself, but somebody told me that each swing deals 120 damage, and I believe it because you can absolutely destroy an entire front line. Plus, it seems to have a little bit of a piercing damage as well, so you can just tear through an entire front line with one blade slash, and the amount of damage you can output with Magneto, in addition to all of the protection you can give with Magneto, makes him an S tier pick. So if anything, you would want Magneto and Venom in one team, or Magneto and Thor can work as well. But Venom and Magneto are the two S tier picks on their own. But now that you know what tanks to play, let's head on over to support and talk about what support characters are the best and the worst in the current state of Marvel Rivals. So, starting off, all supports are valid. I'm just gonna say that off rip, all supports are valid. We're gonna hop past the F tier, the E tier, the D tier, the C tier, and we're gonna start off in the B tier. Generally speaking, you cannot go wrong with any support that you pick, though some will stand out over the others. But let's start off with the B tier and we'll take it from there. And we're gonna start off with the addition, this patch. That is, of course, Jeff. He is so cute, so adorable, but he is extremely squishy. He does not have any real self-peel. Yes, I know he can become a little shark and run around, but it's still very easy to kill him, and he can't really stun anyone or dash away to actually create some space. He relies a lot on his teammates to peel him, and if they can't do that, he's kind of screwed. He does have a fairly long range on his primary and his secondary, so you can't stand far back, but that does make you very susceptible to getting killed by flankers because you cannot really fight back on your own. Overall, though, he has a very good amount of healing with his primary and with his orbs, assuming your teammates stand close together because it pierces through teammates. And the ultimate has a lot of potential. You can pick up either your teammates and bring them to safety, or pick up your enemies and throw them off a cliff, or into a teammate's ultimate. You can also pick up everyone off of a contested point in overtime, and it will just stop the game completely. There's a lot of potential with Jeff, but I feel like overall he doesn't provide the consistency you would like for a higher tier pick of a support. The same kind of goes for Adam Warlock. I know Adam Warlock has a lot of potential. He can deal a lot of damage. He can heal himself, somebody else, and add the soul thing, which allows them to take less damage and get heals and whatnot. But overall, I feel like his kit is very lacking as far as sustainability goes, and he doesn't have much of a self-peel, very big hitbox, very easy to kill, no movement, is decent damage, but overall I don't feel like he does help his team enough to be a high tier support. Still good support, just not a high tier one. His whole playstyle revolves around his revives, his ultimate more than anything. But if you play for a revive, that means that you have to leave your team behind so you can revive safely, which means you kind of give up on a fight. You could bring a dead teammate back to the fight early, which might help you guys swing the tides of a battle, assuming you get a pick. But overall, I feel like he just does not provide enough on his own to be any higher than the B tier. Moving on into the A tier of support, we have Raccoon, who also can bring people back from the dead. He has an incredibly strong team up with Punisher. It is disgusting, we mentioned it previously, but Punisher basically turns into a full ultimate Punisher just from the click of a button from Raccoon. Raccoon also has incredible survivability, not only because he can spam his heal all over the area, which will cover the entire area with heals, which heals both Raccoon and his teammates, but also because he has 2 dashes, he can climb around, he can hover and whatnot, and just be a little booger, just difficult to hit. The instant revive from his ability is incredibly valuable, especially if you have a teammate who likes to die a lot. And of course, the ultimate is very good at enabling your team with doing as much damage as possible and just out DPSing the enemy team. Not good enough to be a support on its own. I'd argue that the S tier supports are the ones you would have if you only have one support, but a very good flex support or enabling support that you would want to have with, again, a Punisher or a good main healer. Another good off or flex support, but so solid support is Loki, also in the A tier. He has a very good kit with great survivability, not only because he can make clones and teleport to them or go invisible, but he can create Baptiste totems that convert incoming damage to heals. So not only does this mean that anyone inside of these totems will not die, but they will also get healed by any incoming damage, which is just incredibly strong. His ultimate also allows him to copy an entire enemy's kit or even teammate's kit, which lets you copy even an ultimate. I got that wrong in my previous video. I meant team up in the previous video, but it is ultimate, which allows Loki to either just use a really strong ultimate to either wipe the enemy team, or he can clone himself to a support, which allows you to double up with twice the amount of support ultimates to stay up. If you can predict what the enemy team wants to do, especially with Loki, there is an insane amount of things that you can do to outplay it and still turn the fight into your own favor. So there's a lot of potential with Loki, and again, he's a good flex support, but he doesn't, in my opinion, heal all too well. He's more about utility outside of healing. So let's talk about S tier as well. Starting off in S tier, we have Mantis. I have bumped her up because I've played her a bunch, and I have to say it, I'm starting to see the vision. She still doesn't heal at an insane amount, I feel like, especially when we compare to the other hero in the S tier, but she is very solid, a very good flex support, in my opinion, the best flex support. She can be a good solo support as well on your team. She can enable her team with a damage boost, both with her ultimate and the normal damage boost, and she just deals a solid amount of damage. She moves fast and is difficult to hit. Plus, she has the stun, so overall, she has a lot of self-peel, which allows her to stay alive, all while enabling her teammates, both by dealing damage or just allowing them to deal more damage. Again, the heals, in my opinion, are a little bit lacking, but overall, she is very good in every other way. You can play her as a singular support if you want to make sure to stay alive, but obviously you're going to be lacking in your heal output compared to someone like Luna, which is the other support in the S tier, and in my opinion, who is the best single healer by far. She is the only healer that has a hit scan heal spam ability, somewhat like Ana in Overwatch, and you get rewarded for having good aim. You can just stand back, and if you keep clicking your teammates and hitting those heals, they will barely, if ever, die. You can also go from healing them to dealing a lot of damage to any flyers or incoming flankers, as well as self-heal with your shift ability, and you can even throw your ice ball and freeze a flanker that jumps in your face, or even the frontliners if you want to shut them down. I've shut down a ton of ultimates with the Luna freeze just by predicting them to come in a little bit. Obviously, you need to know if an ultimate can be shut down or not. For example, you can't shut down the Punisher, but I have used the Luna snowball on a incoming Scarlet Witch, which shut it down completely. I wish I clipped it, but it didn't. She's gonna have to believe me. But there is a lot of value in that freeze as well. Her passive makes it easy to rotate to and from the point, and of course her ultimate is great, built super fast, especially if you're good at healing and hitting your shots. It's basically like a Zenyatta ult. You keep your teammates basically alive, and if you know that your teammates aren't taking that much damage, you can even swap from healing to damage boosting, which allows your teammates to push through and out DPS the enemy team, a little bit like with Rocket Raccoon. Luna is just a combination of most supports in the game. Very strong kid, bit of a steep learning curve if you want to get her to her highest potential, but she is so damn strong. But anyways, that was an updated tier list for Season 0 CBT with the Jeff and Thor patch of Marvel Rivals. So I hope you guys are having a lot of fun. If you guys do disagree with any of my placements, feel free to tell me in the comments, and I do read all of the comments and I take that input. If you guys enjoyed the video and want me to cover more Marvel Rivals, hit the like, hit the subscribe. I'll be uploading more during the beta. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time. Peace out.